Welcome to Beyond the Block, a Web3 focused podcast where in each episode we'll explore a topic impacting our industry. Joined by an esteemed industry colleague, we'll dive deep into how it's driving our businesses. This is, of course, all powered by Kadena, the only truly scalable Layer 1 proof of work blockchain. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Beyond the Block podcast. My name is Tang, and I'm head of innovation here at Kadena. Today we're talking to Jens Knipper, a Java developer with OpenValue, about his experience of getting started with Web3 development as a Web2 developer. Jens, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to be here.
So, tell me a bit about you. What is your background in Web2?
Yeah, I'm officially my title is full stack developer, but you always hear the full stack developer is a myth. So I'm doing also front end DevOps, but my main focus is actually on the back end. So I would consider myself a back end developer with little knowledge of front end and maybe DevOps.
Right.
And I've been working in consultancy for, I think, more than 6 years now. And during this time, I worked for different companies in all kinds of industries, like banking, insurance, governance, tourism, automotive, and in the past, in between two projects, we got some time, and my company did a cooperation with Kadena, and we actually set up a small prototype using the Kadena blockchain technology.
So when you were kind of learning about this technology, what were the hurdles that you entered? Because we all know that blockchain is quite a lot different than the Web2. What did you feel like was really difficult for you to get into?
So I consider myself an engineer, and as an engineer, I want to use the best solution for the given problem with the certain variables around it and the conditions. And I think blockchain is a really great technology, but has quite a limited scope. So actually finding a problem worth solving with blockchain technology might be one of the harder problems to find. And what I always thought, getting into blockchain development, smart contract development would be difficult. But as it turned out, it was actually kind of easy, and the hurdles, the barriers, were quite low.
Okay, that's great to hear. So what parts of the things that you touched upon were really things that you thought, okay, this is going to be very difficult, but then in the end turned out to be pretty easy to use?
I thought developing a smart contract would be really difficult. I develop it, have to deploy it, running on blockchain or something. But to be honest, the tooling was quite impressive, and so the barriers of entry were quite low. So I could develop the smart contract, actually write tests for it, run it locally, and and then maybe put it on chain, let it run on chain. And so what it was just the barrier of entry were low. The learning curve was quite flat, but not too flat to get bored or something. It was just a nice experience of development. And actually getting started was not the problem.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you tried a form of verification in that, or did you just stick with the REPL test?
We actually did the REPL tests. So REPL are the tests which you can use to verify your smart contract. You put something in and can verify what's coming out of there, and it's quite a good experience, and it shows it's some mature tooling.
So you said you were developing it on your local machine, right? Did you use the DevNet setup, or did you use other type of setups?
So I was running the packed lang server locally.
Right.
And it's you can deploy your smart contract, your packed files are there, and run them locally. And we also were using the testnet, yes, but we did the development in different stages. The first one was just to develop a smart contract, and then to evolve it, to deploy to the testnet, run it there, write a small application around it with front end, And yeah, so at a later point, we're also deploying it to the testnet. And it was actually kind of nice to see because the behavior is different to the one on your local machine. Because on the testnet, it's an actual blockchain running there. And what you get is, for example, your writes are going to be slower. You have to wait for the chain to write a block until you can read it again. And yeah, it gets you right into the problems, or not problems, but like in the different behavior of the blockchain to compare to other data structures.
Yes, I totally feel that one. The way that you then suddenly have to handle the feedback for users is completely different. What type of feedback loop did you give the users?
Yeah, mostly like a loading screen. Yeah, because as I said before, finding a problem worth solving with blockchain is difficult, and we're affiliated with a company which does certification, not certifications, but applicant testing. So what we did, as I said before, like finding a problem was more difficult part, but yeah, we said like, okay, we don't want to have like a 100% perfect fit on the problem we want to solve, but maybe like an 80% fit would be nice. And we're affiliated with a company which does like applicant testing. And what it does is test the coding skills of people that are applying to companies. But this is only for Java. And yeah, it's based on scientific research by a Norwegian computer science professor. And we're using it actually in our company. So when I applied there, I also had to do the test. And it's like a basic coding skills test. So it tests on how good you are at implementing, at refactoring, testing, how's the coding speed, how you regression, how good are you at object orientation. And it's like completely practical. You can do it on your own. Whenever you want. There's no one looking over your shoulder, so it's a nice tool. We had the idea to make it more generally available and to maybe do like a certification around it. So like someone can do the certification and say like, hey, I got a grabs, the system's called grab score of 8, which is really good actually. It's like I think one of the highest one you can get. And so the idea is that you apply with this result and the company can see like, yeah, he's a good Java developer. And so we said like, would be nice to store and verify the certifications somewhere. And because we did the cooperation with Kadena, we said, okay, let's do it with the Kadena blockchain. Like from engineering perspective, you can do it maybe a lot easier, maybe with signature, with public-private key. But yeah, we want to go like, let's do it with the blockchain.
So you now, since you now have it on the blockchain, is it something that other companies can now start using as well? That they can be like, okay, I recognize that there's this NFT offset certificate or score, and now I can start using that NFT for other purposes.
They could actually use our smart contract and use it themselves to store data, like certification data on blockchain. Yes, totally. But it's not like we have like an interface they can use or something. No.
Right, but at least once it is on the blockchain, that implicitly means that others can view it as well, right? So that they can make use of it and prove, hey, indeed, Jens has taken the certificate and he got a score of 8.
yeah, totally. But one thing is like, it's also one problem. You can't alter data on blockchain, and like concerning GDPR, it says like every user you should allow users to say like, hey, I want to have my data deleted, like my personal data, and so you have to be aware how and what to store on the blockchain, because you can't delete it. And yeah, that's also a thing. Like consider, what do I want to write there? Probably no personal data.
I can imagine it was quite a struggle to start reasoning about that.
Yeah. I think it's also because maybe like blockchain is not really 100% suitable for this problem. But yeah, if you just want to fiddle around and try something out, it's why not?
So now that you've actually developed a little bit in the Web3 space, what do you feel like the Web3 brings that Web2 will never be able to achieve, or is something that is very difficult to achieve in the Web2?
Oh yeah, it brings us right to the strength of blockchain. Blockchain is really good. Like when it goes to like coordination among parties that don't trust each other or something. So when you have like some kind of consensus mechanism, and also like what I said before, what our problem was like deleting data. You can't delete data that's been written to block, and so it's like censorship resistance.
So if you would give new aspiring developers that want to make use of the blockchain some advice, would you then, what would you advise them to use the blockchain for, and what would you advise them not to use the blockchain for?
I would say like get your requirements straight. Like what do you want to have? Using the blockchain is not a requirement, I think. Should be like, do I need like really like a consensus mechanism, and do I need to alter data? Does it have to be like fast, like reads and writes? How about the pricing, the cost, and putting it all into context? You should think about what solution do I need and what do I want to build. And I think like blockchain is really good in the field it's being used now, like banking stuff, and takes more and more part of the banking industry, and that's where it's really good. And maybe like in further development, the scope where it's useful can actually be widened. So it might be useful to use it in a lot more cases. But yeah, right now I think it's mostly like for transferring money, doing loan stuff, and the stuff it's actually used right now in.
Yeah, I think that's a shame that currently it is mainly used for that, because I feel like the blockchain can be used for way more useful things like governing processes, so that we can actually make sure that certain processes are handled in a way that is fair for every participant. And I feel like the future of blockchain should head into that direction. At least that's my personal view on it. And I'm hoping that we will get more of it, like, for example, with users of tooling that you guys have made, right? That with NFTs that are basically representing a value that you can then suddenly be, hey, I have this, so I can now apply to certain type of jobs. I feel like we should encourage more developers into thinking, hey, it's more than just banking and money and other type of financial related applications. It's way more than that, I feel. When you were talking about GDPR, right, did you and your team, when thinking about these type of problems, actually got into like maybe a mind lock of, okay, we have this GDPR, we want to make sure that things are not going to be stored on the blockchain, but still we need to somehow relate these type of things. How did you guys handle that?
Yeah, what we did like was we don't save like names on the chain. So what you do is you get an ID, and it's linked within our system. And most what we save is like the data, how you scored in different fields, your overall score, and your ID. And your ID is then linked within our system to your name. So to save private data somewhere else and not store it on the chain.
Right. So if I understand correctly, you basically made sure that whatever is stored on the blockchain is not linkable to a person without the other way around, right? So from the Web 2, you can link to the Web 3, but not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like if the user insists like, hey, please delete my data, we can just throw away his name and the ID and the score is still on chain, but no one knows who this ID is.
What is OpenValue? Because you work for OpenValue. Can you tell me a little bit more about OpenValue?
Yeah, we're a software consultancy with expert Java full stack developers, and we got 8 offices, I think, in the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So mostly like Central Europe, and we're just 160 developers. So among 8 offices, that's not a lot, and we try to be like quality, not quantity. So there's like the big consulting companies which can actually pull like huge projects. We don't do this. We try to be like the good guys that go into projects and say like, hey, let's do it this way and try to establish ourselves as like experts going somewhere.
How long have you been working at the OpenValue?
For 3 years now.
Okay, nice. And when you were talking about how you were also using this tool to test your skills, right? To get when you were applying for this job. If you would look back at that and you could try to fit in what you have built right now into that process, how would you see that fitting in?
The test is just some general programming skills. So you get like 3 or 4 different tasks. So for example, here's some code. It's not tested. Write some unit tests for it. Here's some code, and it's really shitty. Do some refactoring to make it more maintainable. And so applying blockchain skills. So you don't need blockchain skills to do this, but I think like broadening your knowledge, expanding your knowledge is always helpful. And it's not like you need blockchain knowledge, Web3 development knowledge to be really good at this kind of test and the certification in the end. But yeah, keeping your skills sharp, getting new knowledge always helps.
So if you look back at that process of you joining OpenValue, if the thing that you've built now with the certification would already be existing at that point, how would you see that program or that type of certification fit in such a process? Like how would you see applicants use this certification as part of being hired?
Okay, yeah, like the optimal case would be they already know this certification before they apply to us, and they did the certification and say like, hey, I did this test, I got a really good score, and they can actually skip like the stage in the interview process with it and keep the interview process a lot shorter, because we already know they got like basic or good programming knowledge, to be honest. And it could actually make your hiring process a lot more efficient.
Right, so it could even make it such that any company that sees value behind that certification could skip the process for that applicant straight away.
Yeah. That's the idea, and what actually the founders of this are trying to push a little in the Java community. Actually, we already got a few companies we are working with. So we're not only doing like development consulting, but also like doing interviews for other companies, and we're actually using it to get new employees for companies and to build up teams.
Nice. So how did they experience it so far? Did you already get feedback?
I can tell you about my experience using this tool, and it's usually when you do interviews, you may have like some coding test or something like whiteboarding, and it's always like you have someone looking over your shoulder. You feel a little awkward maybe, and with this it's not recorded, nothing, no one's looking over your shoulder. You can. So I did like, I think on a Sunday when when I had some time, when I'm feeling like refreshed and so because I wanted to have a good score, I did like 1 or 2 tasks of this test, and I said, okay, maybe I'm getting a little tired. Feel like not doing it, finishing it today. I did like the next morning. I finished it, and so it's nice not to have like pressure behind it. Someone looking over your shoulder, and you feel like, oh no, I can't type this now. I can't Google this now because then I feel stupid or something.
Right.
You can just do whatever you want. Like you have your regular IDE in there. You can use like regular code replacement, your shortcuts, and yeah, it felt like regular programming, just to doing something in my day job, and it wasn't actually so far the tasks weren't so far fetched from regular tasks you do.
So, I mean, probably everyone is asking right now, right? What if I would be using GitHub Copilot or something like that, or some other AI tooling? How would that be guarded from users just using GitHub Copilot or some other AI tooling just to make them look good?
So the tool is running in a virtual machine, and you get like the interface on it, and
Right.
you can configure your IDE the way you want. So like you preferred shortcuts or whatever, and then you can get started. I think like GitHub Copilot and stuff like this are not enabled in there, but it doesn't block you from using GitHub Copilot in another window or another tab or whatever. It's not that restrictive. You get like a task and you have to translate it, and it's not so difficult. So like programming it yourself probably takes as long as getting it into GitHub Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever, and actually asking it properly what to do.
If you would compare the blockchain with something more familiar to the Web 2 in terms of data structures and that kind of stuff, how would you try to explain it to a Web 2 developer, how they could view the blockchain in terms of data structure?
Kind of a hard one, right? Getting started with blockchain, it's a whole different data structure compared to other data structures, and yeah, you could say it's a database, but it's a lot different, right?
I guess maybe the closest would be an immutable database that you want to make sure that you do not have anything private in there.
Because, but the writing to the database is also so much different to a regular database. It's really hard to describe, right?
And because indeed that's something that a lot of people tend to do, right? They try to compare it to something that they already know, but the blockchain is kind of not something they know. It's kind of like an accumulation of things they might know, and probably the most difficult part is the part of the consensus of how that relates to something that they are more aware of. Do you have maybe an analogy for that? How people can relate to the idea of getting a consensus of what should be written into the blockchain?
It's like a voting mechanism, right?
Right.
Like some kind of election.
I think that's maybe indeed the closest that you can get that speaks to a lot of people's imagination already. That maybe indeed writing some data to the blockchain, you first have to get a vote of everyone that is involved before it actually gets immortalized, let's say.
Yeah.
Nice. You take everything that you've learned right now, right? And you would just say, okay, I have all this knowledge about the blockchain that I've garnered over the last months for working with the blockchain. and you would start all over, what would you have changed in your learning process, and what would you have changed in the application that you've built?
So we did get into prototypes, so quick and dirty, more or less. And I'm more like automating stuff, testing stuff properly, automating the tests, and do really clean. But yeah, I would do this a lot more. And because what we did in the end was just do it manually. So okay, I changed something on the contract. I ran the REPL test. Okay, they're running. Let's start the local application server again, deploy it again, write something to the chain, read something from the chain. I was like, okay, for a prototype, it's okay. But if I do it a lot more or a lot bigger project, I would want to automate it. I want to get feedback as fast as possible. And that's what I would actually want to change. And what I like about the infrastructure is that it actually allows to do this.
I think you would be interested in learning about the Docker image that we have, Kadena DevNet, because that image will provide a lot of these features that you want out of the box, where you can have the whole kind of like a testnet setup, but then for your local machine. So including chain web data and some other batteries.
So I can use it probably with the test containers or something, fire it up in a test,
yes,
tear it down. Nice.
So that will be probably useful for your next projects.
Yeah. I always love using test containers. It's really, really helpful when actually the tooling allows something like this.
So you if I understood correctly, you're mostly using local calls to fetch data from the blockchain, or are you? Do you know that we actually have now provided a GraphQL endpoint as well?
No, we've just been using the REST endpoint.
Right. So maybe that's something that you guys also might be interested in. So that's also included in the container. So you can actually try and play around with it and use that as a way to get information from the blockchain as well.
Cool.
So that could also be interesting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. REST endpoint. So it's when the reading and writing, I got only a few endpoints, and my requests are small. REST is fine, but if it gets more complex, GraphQL is really, really nice. A nice alternative. Yeah. So whenever your project grows, GraphQL might be a good alternative, for a bigger one.
Thank you, Jens, for joining us, and everyone at home joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for having me.